Well, when do you want me to start? Do you want me to go right into the intro or?
Let's give it a minute or two. People are popping in. I see a few people coming in. Thanks everybody for coming. Appreciate it. We'll start in what you think, 30 seconds, Heather?
Sure, that sounds good.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you being here. Hello, hello. More people are popping in.
Hopefully everyone's night is going well. We're excited to talk about all things NAMI tonight.
I'm going to share my screen, Heather, and then I think we can get started. Can you two see this okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to do the introduction. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Unveiling NAMI CCNS Programs and Services, Your Path to Empowerment, brought to you by NAMI Cook County North Suburban, and our speakers, Nancy Sussman and Bree Hoekstra, and myself, your MC tonight, Heather Kendall. So let's begin. Hello, I'm Heather Kendall. I'm the Outreach Manager at NAMI Cook County North Suburban. NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization, providing public awareness, no-cost support, and education programs online and in person so that people and families affected by mental health conditions can build better lives. We are a lifeline to individuals and families who don't know what to expect in their difficult life journey. We offer classes and support groups and do a lot of local advocacy for mental health. Our programs are free and open to those in our 20 community service area. We do not turn anyone away who is in need. Our topic tonight deals with mental health programs and support NAMI Cook County North Suburban has to offer. This informal webinar was designed to further educate the members of CCNS communities on the various types of programs that are offered for free to support individuals on their mental health and wellness journeys, including those with mental health diagnoses or those who have a loved one living with a mental health diagnosis. According to NAMI National, 22.8 or 57.8 million U.S. adults received a mental health diagnosis in 2021, and 5.5% or 14.1 million U.S. adults received a serious mental health diagnosis. It's not just adults who experience mental health conditions. 16.5 or 17.7 million youth aged 16 to 17 received a mental health diagnosis. Of these individuals, less than half, 47.2% of adults with a mental health diagnosis received treatment, and half, 50.6% of youth aged 6 to 17 with a mental health diagnosis received treatment, leaving us with a total of 30,518,400 adults going untreated and 3,803,800 youth untreated. NAMI recognizes that the leading cause of individuals not seeking treatment is stigma. As a peer-based organization, NAMI CCNS aims to address mental health stigma, spread mental health awareness, and provide mental health supports, including support groups, community education, and resources. Our speakers tonight will provide detailed information of each program that is offered so that you too can believe in the possibility of recovery, wellness, and potential in us all. We will leave plenty of time for the Q&A at the end. If you'd like to type questions into the chat box during our conversation, please do. Now our intro of tonight's speaker. It is an honor to introduce our guest speakers, Nancy Sussman and Bree Hoekstra. Nancy Sussman, a former program director at NAMI CCNS, graduated from the University of Wisconsin with a degree in social work. Nancy has experience working in human resources, where she spent most of her years working in the hotel industry with various corporations, including Regent International Hotels as Human Resources Director of the Mayfair Regent Chicago, During this time, she learned the importance of meeting the vast array of needs for a diverse group of individuals and their families, including mental health services. Upon the closing of the Mayfair Regent, Nancy turned her focus toward a more mental health-based arena, eventually taking on the position of program director for NAMI CCNS. During this time, Nancy identified varying challenges within NAMI CCNS's catchment area, our community service area, and identified ways to meet the educational needs and supports within the community, including our current Balance for Success support group. When Nancy decided to leave NAMI CCNS in June of 2016, she chose to refocus her career once again towards mental health education and is now a co-host of Behind Our Door podcast, a real-life conversation about mental health. Nancy resides in Chicago, Illinois, and looks forward to spreading this valuable mental health education and resources throughout our communities. Bree Hoekstra, our current program director at NAMI CCNS, obtained her bachelor's degree in education at Illinois State University and later obtained her master's degree in education as a reading specialist at DePaul University. Bree has experience working as a Chicago Public Schools special education teacher in the South Shore community at Chicago community. There she supported elementary age students with learning and behavioral disabilities. During this time, she learned the importance of having a variety of mental health and wellness support for all students and their caregivers. Through personal experiences of living with mental health challenges, as well as her teaching experience, her passion for mental health education grew. She pursued a career at NAMI CCNS in August of 2022, where she worked as a project coordinator on a grant-funded project through the Illinois State Board of Education. In November of 2022, NAMI CCNS's program director, Christine Somerville, retired, and Bree took over the position with the goal of expanding NAMI CCNS's youth programming. Bree also resides in Chicago, Illinois, and is excited to share all the wonderful programs NAMI CCNS has to offer. We are so thrilled to have our speakers tonight. So let's give a warm welcome to Nancy Sussman and Bree Hoekstra.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Heather. I guess I'll start out, right? Oh, good. Next slide. So to say the least, it is a pleasure to be back here with my NAMI CCNS family and others. Always such a special place in my heart, and you will hear why after we talk about what we're talking about tonight. It is a privilege and an opportunity to be able to talk about NAMI programs, one of my favorite topics. And I'm so glad to always be able to spread the word with whoever is in need. I thought it would be a good idea to start off with a little bit of history and a little bit of perspective. History-wise, unless, I'm thinking some people might know this listening and others not, but I always find it so interesting. In 1977, two mothers, each with a son with diagnosed schizophrenia, sat at a kitchen table in Madison, Wisconsin, talking about how difficult it was to, experience what they're experiencing in each of their own houses with the challenges of a son that has these issues. And above and beyond all of that, the terrible judgment people would have on them as parents, saying that they were bad parents, and the enormous stigma, and to top it off, the terrific lack of resources. 2 years later, in 1979, NAMI was born and has spread throughout the country ever since. There are small affiliates in small towns and large affiliates for these big cities and larger communities. Some of the small ones could be out of somebody's home and all volunteer. And others that are larger, like NAMI CCNS, actually have an office, and they're a combination of employees and volunteers. Each, though, with the common thread, and as Heather mentioned, each with the important aspect of being having peer-led programming. There are a lot of mental health organizations out there, more and more, which is, of course, a great thing. But this peer-led formula, offering education and support, is the absolute key towards recovery for someone who's struggling themselves and the entire family. I feel as though on a personal level, coming into NAMI with my own situation of one of my children, one of my sons, at a young age. This NAMI has been a game changer and really continues to be so, because I have forged friendships and relationships, and obviously they can't get rid of me. I'm here tonight. I always am almost at a loss for words at how important this organization is. And I'm lucky because perspective, like I said, I have my own personal situation. It's funny, I hadn't done this really in a long time. I tallied up that I've had 6 different windows in NAMI CCNS to have my perspective on this programming. First, as a class member of NAMI Basics, and we will go into more details about all of these programs. Then a class member of NAMI Family to Family. I was a volunteer school outreach coordinator when I realized that I had trouble finding NAMI, and I'll tell you how I found NAMI a little later. But thinking that the schools years ago did not have enough information on NAMI to even give out to the parents, and now I believe they do have much more of that. I was a family support group facilitator, of course, the program director, and now an advisory board member of NAMI CCNS. And all of that, I mean, obviously, this is my passion, and all of that has given me such strength and empowered me to go on with my own personal situation. So when I talk to others about it, it's easy for me to pass on this information and say, at least try it, because I've experienced it myself. I have put my money where my mouth is, even though, as Heather did mention, these are all at no cost. So I really can't say enough about the programs, and we'll go into a little more detail. How about the next slide? Sorry, my slides show didn't work for some reason, so we're doing this as a group effort. The catchment area. NAMI CCNS, as Heather said, umbrellas 20 communities. They're Mount Prospect, Kenilworth, Wilmette, Gulf, Morton Grove, Des Plaines, Niles, Park Ridge, Rosemont, Evanston, Highland Park, Northbrook, Glencoe, Winnetka, Northfield, Glenview, Prospect Heights, Lincolnwood, and Skokie, which is where the NAMI office is actually located. You can take, like they said earlier, no one will be turned away if they are from another area and they want to take some sort of a program in one of the catchment area, one of the areas that we just mentioned. That's fine, and vice versa. If you live somewhere in this area, the NAMI CCNS area, and there's something that's a better time for you, or somehow a better description of your situation, you can go elsewhere as well. The only thing I think about this is that, and also, wait a second, also backtrack to the pandemic, everything was on Zoom. So I would have crisis calls from all over the country and say to people, just get in a support group. Go find a link that suits your needs as far as your time and free time and privacy to be in a Zoom, and do that. But what the most important part of this is many times local resources. So as much as we say go elsewhere or have anyone come here, it's important to many times, according to your needs, stay close to home and be in your catchment area, because the conversation with all of these programs gets to the point of a lot of sharing, and people share local resources and again, forge friendships and support with one another. So in that idea, it is important to stay close to home. Otherwise, yes, look elsewhere, look anywhere, but reach out for the help. Okay, the next slide. So you are not alone is probably the most important message. Many times NAMI is the first call that somebody makes that's in crisis. Me personally, when I talk about my son, I am a very private person. I don't go around announcing things about my family, and open to talk about everything and anything by any stretch of the imagination. But when it came to this, and my son is 15 years old and hospitalized suddenly in a psych inpatient unit at a local hospital, I was paralyzed with, not knowing what to do. I took a leave from my full-time job at that moment, and I reached out to very few people, but one of my friends has an adult sister with bipolar disorder, and she cut out a little article, which shows a sign of the times because it wasn't online, a little article that talked about NAMI basics. And I was hesitant to join a group and go talk about this because I was sort of like, I just have to get help for my son and I don't have time for this. I mean, I was in that state of mind, but I've never stopped thanking her for giving me that, because I thought I'll give it a try. Like, I encourage anyone who's listening, I would give it a try and go to this 6-week class, which we'll talk about. And I would say within the first half hour, a boulder came off my shoulders that was a ton. That was my sign of you're not alone. It is so important. It makes the biggest difference. Whether you're somebody who's struggling yourself or a family member, that is the key. So the statistics saying, aside from all of the wonderful statistics that Heather provided, 1 in 5 US adults experience mental illness, 1 in 20 US adults experience serious mental illness, and 17% of youth experience a mental health disorder. The numbers are there, and the conversation is getting better. I feel as though, again, the pandemic, I think, helped with that. People are talking about it more. The line of stigma is getting lower. Things are getting, little by little are getting better. But that first call to NAMI and that you're not alone is crucial. So if it's you or somebody that you can encourage, like I'm trying to encourage anyone listening, please do so, because it is a huge difference. Let's go to the next slide. So let's get into the classes a little bit. Family to Family is one of the most popular programs at NAMI, and it has been around almost as long as NAMI has. This is a class, as we said before, there's no charge for any of these programs. This is an 8-week class that you do have to register for, because it provides materials, and also there's a regulation of how many people. You don't want too many people in a class, but and they ask questions about who are you supporting. This is for adults that are caring for adults that are struggling with mental health conditions, meaning when I say an adult, 18 and over. So I always think after senior year in high school, then you'd be in the family to family category. This is an 8-week class that is a lifesaver, family saver. I cannot say enough, if I haven't said that enough before. It's about 2.5 hours each session. The first half of the night, or whenever the class is the education part, and the second is sharing. So it's really support and education, or education and support under one roof in one night or one session, each times 8. You learn about things like the signs and symptoms, definitions of brain disorders, about medications and side effects. One of the most important classes, how to communicate with your loved one. When you have a situation of somebody who is struggling with their mental health and has a mental illness of whatever kind, there's a lot of frustration. It's very hard to get through. And this class actually gives you great ideas on how to communicate, and also how to communicate with other members of the family, whether it's your spouse, whether it's other kids in the house. This really touches on things that you thought you'd never get help on. I think one of the most important things the class talks about is self-care. People do not put themselves first when it's these situations. There could be chaos. They're in a crisis in a house. The last person you think of is yourself as a caregiver. But of course, how much help can you be if you're not taking care of yourself? And this class will give you coping mechanisms with the stress, but also stress that you need to get help. When people will say, for example, that, which has been brought to me many, many times over crisis calls, my adult loved one that is struggling with mental illness will not go get help. I try, you can't force an adult to go get help. The best advice I can give is to go get help yourself. The stronger you get, and I'm saying therapy for yourself and also anything else you love doing, but therapy for yourself gives you the strength and empowerment to pass this on to the next person. And many times that family member that said that they would not accept help will turn around and accept help. That wheel does turn because they sense your strength. They start to see that you are, that things are less chaotic because you're feeling less of the chaos. So messages like that from family to family are just crucial. So, and in fact, I know this was online for a while with everything going online, but now is in person. I think there have been a few in-person classes, and I believe the next one is in Niles. I'm not sure of the building, but in Niles, October 7th through December 9th. If you're interested, call the office, or you probably can register online. Bree will be able to, she's shaking her head. So yes, you can register online. But it is, if you're remotely interested, be interested. It is so worth it. Okay, let's go on to the next. In Our Own Voice is another incredible program. It has been around a long time. And this is a program when somebody is trained, somebody who has the journey themselves of living with mental illness, living with mental health conditions, that is trained to tell their story. These are real game changers in many different areas. There are communities that have all different agencies. There can be employers that want to have someone come tell their story, libraries. There are many different areas where it is not only appropriate, but so helpful for someone who's been through it to go tell their story. And just think of how encouraging that would be from all angles. These are 40, 60, or 90-minute programs, depending on what the host is looking for. There could even be, I've done employer lunch and learns, where somebody will say at a big company, we would like to we have 3 different shifts of lunch, for lunch for our employees, and we would love to have someone come do the In Our Own Voice program to tell their story. When that happens, it's for a lot of reasons. And as Heather mentioned, I have a background in human resources. I wish I would have known that there was a program like this when I was director of HR, because I would have definitely had it for my employees, A to Z. It would have been for employees to learn about family members. It would have been for employees that are struggling themselves to hear it for themselves. It would be for other employees that are having, that see that there are some issues with fellow employees. It could be someone who's running a department thinking, how can I approach this person that I know is struggling? It would be a total gift as an employer to be able to have this. So I always think about that. And if you're listening, as I have no idea, who's exactly in the audience, this is something that is an enormous help from so many perspectives. If you're interested in this, call the office and talk about setting it up. The other side of this I'd like to talk about is that if you're out there and you're thinking you may want to tell your own story, that is a great idea. You can also call the office about the training, what the protocol of the training is, how and when and where you do that. But I know so often people that have trained and go out to speak will say, oh God, I was a little bit nervous beforehand, but I feel like $1 million after, because you get up there and you start telling your story. And it's one thing to hear yourself say it all out loud, but it's another thing to know how you are helping so many that are sitting in that audience. I don't know of a better feeling than that. So that's another thing to think about. If you're interested in being trained to be a speaker, call the NAMI office. Let's see the next slide. Ending the Silence, another wonderful program. This is a 50-minute mental health education program for high school and middle school age kids. This is a great program that has just gotten better and better and is definitely making a difference in that age group, which of course will make for better adults because they will be taught to recognize if they or a friend or a brother or sister has issues early on. And also, just in and of itself, ending the silence coming to a school reduces the stigma. I was amazed years ago, I can only imagine how it is now, having an Ending the Silence program, which, by the way, is a presentation about signs and symptoms appropriate for the age groups. A parent coming to speak. I don't know if it's still exactly like this, but a parent coming to speak about their own journey with their son or daughter, who's usually around that age. And then sometimes one of the teachers. It's all different, it kind of depends on the school, I think. But I was amazed years ago when I would be in an auditorium with something like 800 kids. And at one point I was lucky enough to have that where I did 9 periods of the day in a row. We hit thousands of kids in a big high school. And in the auditorium, these kids would, at the end with the Q&A, raise their hand in front of all of their peers and say, I think I might have to talk to somebody. I have that feeling, being sad when I'm not sure why I'm sad, or I have this, I think I have a problem with my anxiety, or my sister does, or my brother does, or I'm afraid my mother does. And the kids, you would think we were in a small little group, and instead it's this huge auditorium, these, no qualms about it, stand up and talk. And I know all kids are not like that, but the times are changing. And something like Ending the Silence is definitely one of the reasons. So if you're listening and you're an educator or you're in the position to pass on this information, please do. Okay, the next slide. Let's talk about support groups. So the family support group is for the same group of people, adults caring for adults, that we talked about with Family to Family. In fact, sometimes people may join a family support group before taking Family to Family. They may join a family support group after taking Family to Family because they want to continue the conversation. Because I must say, after that last class of Family to Family, sometimes people will many times walk out saying, well, now what are we supposed to do? You get so hooked in and look forward to it so much. Well, the family support groups are wonderful. They're online. They're always there. There's a schedule I'm looking at right now on the slide, but you can also find it on the NAMI CCNS website. And you can also, of course, go to family support groups. Just go to family support groups if you hadn't or aren't planning on going to the class at all. They are wonderful. My advice with this is give it a try. Sometimes it takes 2 times or 3 times to get into the groove of it, or to feel like you can relate to the conversation. It's an art to be able to talk about yourself. It's definitely something to get used to if you don't speak openly about your personal life, which is namely whatever would relate to this group talking about their loved ones with mental health issues. But I say that try it a couple of times if you don't relate the first time, because unlike Family to Family, you do not have to register for a support group. So you never know who's going to be there. It could be different every time. Some of these groups do have some people that regularly attend. They love the support groups. So you may see the same core few people there sometimes, or maybe more than a few. But I feel like if you go one night and or attend one of these Zooms and you feel like, I don't know, try again. And remember this, because so often I've had people over time come back and say, I am so glad you said that, because I almost thought, forget it, this isn't for me. But if you go a few times, listen, you have nothing to lose. You really might get hooked and realize how incredibly important this is and how supportive. Many times people will say, I cannot wait until next Monday. Or, they wait for every week for these to roll around, because they are a goal too in trying to accomplish what you wanted to with your, either in, a goal for yourself in communication, let's say, with your family member, or sometimes at the end of a support group, you might have little goals to see if you could get through the week in a certain different way. It gives you great ideas. You get wonderful local resources, great books to read. People talk about everything. And it's, again, this amazing gift of you are not alone. So I highly recommend it. As well, if you're interested in becoming a family support group facilitator, you could talk to Bree again about that, because there is training, and that is another way of helping others, helping yourself and helping others. It's really an interesting perspective. Let's go to the next slide. So the Connection Support Group is for adults that are living with mental illness, adults living with mental health conditions, and want to get together and talk about it. Sometimes someone may be encouraging someone to go to Connections. And again, I say the same thing. Try it a few times. It's hard to talk about yourself. You can go to a Connections group and say to the facilitator, I'm new, this is my first time, I just would like to listen today. Sometimes that's a good idea. Just, it's on Zoom, click into the link and introduce yourself or not, and listen and see how everybody is sharing. And I bet within no time, you'll want to share at least a little, and then maybe a little more the next time. But it's really great, because you don't realize how many people feel the same way about certain things. And it's just the best feeling. And you also get, again, good ideas of things you might have not known about, resources, activities, and also just friendship. I mean, it's a way to meet people, and sharing with this. It's so special. So I highly recommend it. And if you're interested in becoming down the road a Connection support group facilitator, same thing. The door is always open to talk about that and see if you would like to train to be a facilitator. Let's look at the next slide. The Balance Support Group. As Heather had said, I actually developed this group. It was called Balance for Success, now shortened to Balance Support Group. I think that I developed this in about 2011, and it's important. I think it really defines it if I tell you why I did that. It was when I was the family support group facilitator that I found too many times people would come back to the group when we had encouraged them to have their family member, their loved one, try Connections, to say, well, it really didn't work out. Even after I said, try it a few times, like I keep repeating myself. But it was different this time, because there was a repeated story or repeated comments on how their, let's say, son or daughter had some sort of a mental health crisis during college and was hospitalized, thinking of going back. If they did, what would I tell my friends? Or thinking of not going back. It was just a different conversation. Or someone who is wondering, if I'm working, should I share that I have this diagnosis with my colleagues or not? Should I, if they're balancing staying in or out of the workforce? It's just was a different conversation. And each of these support groups are only an hour and a half. So to maximize the time, thinking an hour and a half does go like that, that we would separate the conversations and see if it would work out better. And it did. So I'm glad to see it's still there, because I feel like that just made the support group time more valuable. So anyone can go to anything, but I think, defining the two groups helps decide where one should go, and also increases the possibility of returning time and time again. So hopefully after hearing this, it will encourage more people to go to these. Before passing on, I think this next one Bree is going to take. Right, Bree?
Yeah, I could take this one. But thank you so much.
Yeah, before that though, right before going on, finishing my time here, I just want to have a quick note on one more resource, which is the podcast. I'm the co-host of a national mental health resource podcast. You can see my love for resources. And interestingly enough, my colleague, my co-host, her name is Julie Joyce. I met at NAMI CCNS. She had taken family to family really before I began there. And we each have a son with bipolar disorder, kind of the same age. And she volunteered for years to come with me for my Ending the Silence presentations as the parent speaker. And then she also retired recently, but was a Chicago police officer. So we went throughout the communities and did many times crisis intervention training kind of programs. She did the training. I went to speak about NAMI, but we did so much of that. And then over the pandemic, both of us took a lot of crisis calls and shared a lot of information and would call each other with questions about our, getting help in our, if I needed someone to help me with police issues, I would call her and vice versa. And we decided to share this on a podcast. And again, a podcast, no charge. So you get a library of more information and programs to get more help. And I have to say, I have learned a lot on this podcast because we've had some wonderful guests that touch all different areas of in mental health. So if you're interested, you can contact me or whatever to find out, but it's on Behind Our Door on Amazon, Spotify, SoundCloud, Instagram, Facebook, Apple Music. So just so you know, and now Bree, I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I appreciate it. And I really do appreciate you coming and speaking on all of the programs that you are well versed in. I know that those have been around and you are the best person to speak on them. Many of the support groups that Nancy did touch on are NAMI National. So you will see these in a bunch of different NAMIs throughout the country. And so, she touched on things like family to family, ending the silence, and our own voice. All of these are NAMI National programs. And then Nancy also talked about how the Balanced Support Group is something that NAMI CCNS created due to the needs of our community. So that's something that we can do. That's something that we have the right to do, is create programs that fit the needs of our community. So thank you, Nancy, for bringing that one to life. And it is still going strong. And our facilitators they're just wonderful people. So I appreciate you. You have some very hard shoes to fill, let me tell you. Okay, so I'm going to touch on a couple of the other support groups that we do have to offer. One of them is a grief and loss support group. This one does happen on Saturdays at 10 a.m. This one is also held virtual, and our support group facilitators who do lead the support group have been around for quite some time. So they are very well versed, amazing people. And they really just have a lot of support and love to give. So if you are interested in joining a grief and loss support group, you can find the information on this slide. And again, it's also on our website. Another support group that we have is our veteran support group. So there are two different veteran support group that I want to touch on. One of them is an in-person veteran support group. This is our only in-person support group that we have to offer right now, but we are looking to expand. And so we're on the hunt for spaces, and we're on the hunt for people, and we would love to start providing more in-person support groups. But we do have a veterans in person. This one meets every other Tuesday at 6:30. And we also have a virtual veteran support group. The virtual one is brand new. We just launched it about a month ago, and the first time that we are all going to be meeting is on September 14th. And this one is a weekly meeting. One thing I want to touch on our veteran support group is that these support groups are led by licensed clinician social workers. And I do know that NAMI is loud and proud about us being a peer-led organization. And so we wanted to also tap into that for our veterans. And so the facilitators of these support groups have worked with veterans in the past. So you still get that personal experience. But we do have Dr. Phil Metris, Dr. Ed Ravine, Todd Nelson, Dr. Anastasia McRae. All of these individuals, do have personal experience working with the group of veterans. So again, our new one is going to start on September 14th. So please spread the word. I know our facilitators are very anxious to get to meet individuals in our community and get this program started. This one is for, again, veterans, those who have a mental health condition or mental health challenges, as well as STAR families. These do require registration. The in-person support group, you can call Dr. Phil Metris directly. There is a short screening process that is involved, and he will provide you with all the information you need. The online veteran support group is also registration required. This one is actually done through our website, and I will provide the names to the facilitators. They will call you, do the screening, and get you into that program. Okay, the next program we have, I want to touch on Mental Health 101. So Mental Health 101 is very new. This is the first year that it has been launched. It has been created by Heather, who is the person who is facilitating this webinar tonight. She created this program based on the needs of our community. And so Mental Health 101 is a NAMI specific program. And as I mentioned before, some of them are national and some of them are very specific towards our community. And so she was able to understand through observation and research that many members of our community really do need the basic knowledge, and that's okay. Everybody has to start somewhere. And so she created this program to educate the public on those needs. And so some of the things that you will learn from this program, you will learn about the 4 mental health pillars. So this includes the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, how all these things play a part in our mental health. You will learn what mental health is, what are the causes, what are some specific types of diagnosis and disorders. You will learn about the brain and the biological factors and how that plays a role into your mental health condition. You'll also learn some signs and symptoms, warning signs, and resources. All of our programs offer resources. It's one of the things that we are very proud on and we have a lot of. And so all of our programs, you will hear resources to give to the community or to yourself or a loved one. And then finally, in this program, you will also go through some breathing exercises, some grounding techniques. You'll learn some self-care tips. All of these things you can take home with you. We all have lungs, we all breathe, so you can always use these strategies no matter where you go or what situation that you are in. And that leads me to another NAMI CCNS program specific. This is our mental health self-care kit. And Heather also created this program. She is our creative brain in the office. And this one is one of the most popular programs that we have currently. And this one, so I want to touch on the Mental Health 101 and the Mental Health Self-Care Kit. Typically, if you call and request one of these programs, you either get one or the other. It is very rare that you will get both. And the reason for that being is that Mental Health 101 is really used as a training and is more geared towards adults, whereas Mental Health Self-Care Kit is usually used for youth. As at the bottom, it says ages 2 to 14. We are able to modify it based on the age of the students and the needs that they have. And so this one is based, you can request it, and you can do that by calling or through our website. And again, because these two overlap, you're going to hear some of the same information. So you will learn again the 4 mental health pillars that I mentioned before. You'll also learn about what is mental health, right? We go through this. You'll learn some statistics, and you will understand that the biggest reason for individuals not seeking help is stigma. So we're able to educate the youth on stigma and what that means and why it's an issue. So the purpose of this one, right, is it's your mental health. Everybody has mental health. Everybody has a brain, so everybody has mental health. And so we don't focus as much on the mental health diagnoses. Instead, we focus more on emotional dysregulation and how can we use strategies to further regulate our emotions and calm our bodies during stressful times. So we do provide our participants with an actual kit that they can take home. And these kits have an item in them that go along with your five senses. So it's called Five Senses for Self-Soothing. And for example, right, there's a stretch ball or a squishy ball where you can squeeze it, which would be your sense of touch. You also have a scented eraser, which would be your sense of smell. So the idea is that everything in your kit is something that you will use to regulate yourself and bring you back down to a peaceful state of mind. The great thing about this program is that we provide some templates for students to take home. So for example, one of them has a journal entry. It's a blank journal entry. And we say, if you don't know how to journal, that's fine. We give them a template to use. Additionally, we give them some handouts. If they want to create their own self-care kit at home, they can do that. As you know, some people might not like to paint, and so maybe they'll add something else in there, and we will give them some options. All right. Next, this is, again, a NAMI CCNS specific program. This program is How to Survive Life After High School. And this program was created by our project coordinator, Molly Brown. And she created this with the idea of, okay, these students that are seniors in high school are about to enter into this whole new world and this whole new state of their life. And so how can we prepare these kids to moving from, less independence to more independence? And so the idea behind this program is that we have a panel of participants that come to the program with us. So this could either be a live panel or a virtual panel. And there is some formal education behind it where we teach students about the 4 dimensions of well-being, thinking about community, health, home, and purpose. And then we provide resources again. But the biggest idea of this program is that students get an opportunity to ask their questions. We know that teens, they don't necessarily want to talk to adults. They want to talk to people that are their age, their peers. And so the idea is that they have a group of individuals in front of them that look like them and that act like them, and they are able to be open and ask these questions to our panelists. What's nice about this too is that our panelists are very diverse. So, they come from different backgrounds, but they also have taken different paths after high school, whether that's college or university, trade school, leap year, beauty school, whatever it may be. They get all sides, all perspectives. So again, this is for high school seniors. We typically do this at the last month or 2 of school before students graduate. So if you are an educator, please feel free. And if you're interested, please contact me and we can get you scheduled. Okay. Another program we have, this one is brand new as well. This one, well, it's brand new for NAMI. It's not brand new in general, but Youth Mental Health First Aid is a program that we recently adopted. We have one teacher on our staff. Again, that's Heather. She's very well versed in a lot of different things, wears a lot of different hats. And so what we have done is we partnered with the Jocelyn Center, and we were able to get Heather certified to become a youth mental health first aid instructor through the Jocelyn Center. And so this program is a training. It's a training for people who are working with youth. So thinking ages 12 to 18. And This program is a full day training. There's a couple of hours of pre-work, and then it's a 6-hour training where at the end you will be certified youth mental health first aiders. And the whole purpose behind this is to help young people who are going through a mental health challenge, how to help young people who are going through addiction or crisis. And it provides you with a 5-step action plan to provide these youth with resources and where to go and how to help. So we're not diagnosing, we're not providing therapy of any sorts. Really, it's just a very appropriate way to talk to our youth about their mental health and their mental health conditions. And so if you are interested, I know Heather usually does around 3 classes per year. So it is a little tight, but if you can request, we can always put you on the waiting list and do it for next year. We would love to be able to provide this program in high schools. And if you are to sign up for this program, it should be around 5 to 30 people. Again, you get certified and your certification lasts around 3 years. It's great for resumes. It's great for job applications, whatever it may be. It's a wonderful training. I took it myself, coming as an educator into the mental health world. I don't have that traditional educational background. And so it was very helpful for me to understand what the appropriate way to speak to youth is and how to do that and where can I go for help. So great program. I highly recommend it. And that one also leads me to our teen mental health first aid. This one, Heather, Molly, our project coordinator, and myself recently got our certification to become instructors in this course. We did this around 2 weeks ago, so it's very fresh in our brains. But teen mental health first aid is essentially the same course. However, it is modified to fit the teen's needs. And so again, as we talked a little bit earlier, teens like to talk to each other. They don't necessarily want to come to an adult and talk to us. They want to talk to their peers. That is teen culture, is talking to your friends. And so this program teaches teens how to help a friend who is facing a mental health challenge, who may be, in crisis, or who may have some challenges with substances. So this one is a wonderful program. It also, you become teen mental health first aiders. Certification lasts a while. And it's a wonderful thing to add to your college application, to your resumes again. It's a really wonderful program. One requirement for this program is that if you are to receive teen mental health first aid, we ask that 10% of staff members be certified as youth mental health first aiders. The reason being is part of the program teaches teenagers how and when to tap an adult in. And so with the staff being trained as youth mental health first aiders, typically you would tap in an adult who has also been through this program. So it's really great. I highly recommend, and please, please, please call and request. I do want to go over a couple of things with you. So I just want to point out, we just talked to you about a million programs that we have to offer. And I definitely think it's important to share with you the effectiveness of our programs and who is obtaining these programs. And so since I started back in November 2022, we have been able to serve 2,300 people. New people has been around 1,200, and the number of surveys completed has been around 300. I definitely want to point out that 300 number. Many times what we see is not as many people take our surveys. And we get it, right? We want to respect your privacy. We know that it can be challenging to put yourself out there. But what I will say is that we never require you to add your name or your email. it is all private to us. And the more surveys that we can get completed, the better chances we have of obtaining money for grants, finding sponsors and donors. So we definitely want to see that number increase, and please don't be scared by it. It is, it's safe. It's safe with us, and yeah. So last thing I want to touch on real quick is the objective and the effectiveness. So thinking about our programs, right, we want to make sure that people are learning what they are supposed to learn, as well as the effectiveness. Are you going to share this program with your friends or your family? And so looking at family to family, we see it's our most effective, influential program. That does not surprise me. It is a wonderful, wonderful program. And when I keep moving down the line here, I look at community education. So that involves our mental health 101. It involves our self-care kit, our how to survive life after high school. So thinking about these numbers, right, this is the first year we have offered these programs. And so through the surveys that you do complete, we are able to, take your feedback and make adjustments as needed. And so Heather actually just recently worked on updating our mental health 101 and self-care kit to fit the needs better for our community. So we're constantly analyzing that data. We are constantly making improvements. We want to make sure that we are providing the best programs for you. Looking at in our own voice, I want to scream on top of the world about these numbers because I just think it's absolutely fantastic. We have a new pool of in our own voice volunteers. I think there are 2 people in our pool of in our own voice speakers who have been around for quite some time. Everybody else has just started. And so these numbers have come from people who have shared their story one time. And that is just, it just blows my mind to see how positive and how influential it really is to our members. We get so many amazing comments that I'm going to share with you in just a minute. And then our webinars. We provide different webinars every month on different topics. So we strongly encourage you to come and share them. It's just a great place to be. Lastly, our support groups. Our support groups, as you can see, 90% of all participants across all of our support groups say that they find these support groups to be a safe place to talk. They feel safe talking. They feel safe being vulnerable. They feel safe, sharing their stories, which can be very, very hard to do. So seeing that 90% of people really do feel safe is just very inspiring. Connection with others. I think that is probably the most that we hear of all of our programs, of the benefits. And I know Nancy touched on that a little bit, is you really do build a community. You really do build a cohort of individuals who are like-minded and have very similar experiences as you do. So, one of the things that we should take away from all of this is all of our programs, you will meet people, and you will meet people who understand and care for you. That is one of the things I just love to just rave about all the time. I just want to put this up as well. This is some of the comments that people have left on some of our programs. I like to provide both quantitative and qualitative. I think they're both very important. So, just glancing at this, reading it, whatever you feel like doing, again, a really big takeaway and a theme across all of these programs that we offer is that they are not alone. As Nancy said in the beginning, you are not alone is the slogan that we live by. And this is how people feel when they come to a NAMI CCNS program. So I'll just take a couple seconds if you want to read them over. These support groups come from a variety. I just love to see it. Okay. Lastly, I want to first just thank you to our volunteers. I can't thank our volunteers enough. I don't know if volunteers are even on this webinar right now, but honestly, it doesn't matter. They have, they have spent so much time, put in so much energy to make our programs very successful. And honest and truly, we cannot thank our volunteers enough. Thinking about NAMI CCNS, we are a staff of 6 people. That's it. And we have 20 catchment areas to cover. It's a lot of people that we need to cover. And so our volunteers really do run the ship. They really and truly are the heart of our organization. And so I wish I had time to name them all off, but I don't. I will just say, though, that through all of our programs, we have 39 volunteers that help us with our programs. We are getting 7 volunteers trained in November for a variety of things, such as support groups and family to family and in our own voice. And we also have 3 office volunteers that help us with the resource line and our data collection. So a total of 49 volunteers. It's just a really remarkable, incredible thing. And again, we just cannot thank you all enough. And if you are looking to volunteer, please hit me up. We're always looking. We do have some upcoming programs. At the end of this webinar, you will get a follow-up email that has the links to the registration for both of these programs. Please spread the word. Our family to family class, as Nancy said, our next one is going to be at the Niles Family Service Center in Niles, Illinois. It is starting on Saturday, October 7th, which is the same day as our walk. So please come to that too, if you can make it. And it's an 8-week class. There's a couple of skipped classes due to holidays and buildings being closed, but all of the information is on our website. Please register. Please share it with a friend who may be in need. And finally, our veteran support group that launches on September 14th. This is our virtual one that is held weekly on Thursdays at 5:30. Again, you'll get the emails, you'll get the links, but if you have any further questions, if you want the physical flyer itself, we have some printed off at the office. I can send you them via email, but please reach out if you have any questions about these 2 programs or any that you have learned about today. And there is my contact information again. Thank you all. I think you're on mute, Heather.
Okay. Sorry about that. Boo. Okay. All right. Thank you, Nancy. And thank you, Bree, for providing us with this important information. I know our guests tonight have more questions and they would like to have those answered. So let's continue this conversation. Does anyone have any questions? I didn't see anything in the chat or in the Q&A box about anything specific. Okay. I did want to point out that tonight I was looking at our attendee list, and I'm sorry to point you out, but Mr. Murray Pratt is one of our family support group facilitators, and he is attending tonight, so I just wanted to point him out. So thank you, Mary. All right. If no one has any questions, then for closing for tonight, if you enjoyed tonight's program, you can find more information about the upcoming programs and events at www.namiccns.org. Our next program will be held on September 27th from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., where Ari Parker will provide information on Medicare. Also, like Bree mentioned, if you're interested in getting involved, please register for our annual 5K walk, which takes place on October 7th. Registration can be found on our website. Once you log off, you will see a short survey that will both allow us to better understand your comfort level with today's topic, as well as provide us with information we need to raise money to continue providing free mental health services in the Cook County North suburban area. We appreciate your presence tonight, and we look forward to seeing you again at NAMI CCNS community webinars. Please take care of yourselves and each other and have a great night. Oh, we had one question. Oh, thanks, Pat. She said, excellent presentation and love the program. So great
thank
job
you,
to our
Pat.
speakers again. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye. Thank you for coming. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, we appreciate it very much. I hope you guys have a great night. See you
You
tomorrow.